My name is Corinne Vance, and 3 weeks ago, my 6-year-old daughter looked up from a birthday cake and said one sentence that would put the richest man in our family in a prison cell. She didn't know what she'd seen. She thought she was helping her grandfather get better. She thought she was keeping a nice secret for a man everyone loved. That man was my brother-in-law, Julian Ashford. Self-made, generous, adored. The kind of man who paid for everyone's dinner and never let you forget who paid. My father had been dying for 8 months, a little more every week, and not one of his expensive doctors could tell us why. I could, because I spend my life reading what's inside people's blood, and by the time I understood what my daughter had described, I already knew the name of the poison. Stay with me. This one matters. I'm 38. I'm a toxicology technologist at a county hospital. I run the tests that tell an ER doctor whether a patient took too much of something or was given it. It's not glamorous. I make a modest salary. I drive a 12-year-old car. And I've raised my daughter Lily on my own since her father passed 4 years ago. In my family, that made me the small one, the quiet one, the daughter who chose a sensible job instead of marrying up. My older sister Diane chose differently. She married Julian, and Julian had money, real money, the kind that reshapes a whole family around it. Our father, Raymond, built a small real estate company into something worth close to $40 million, and slowly, over the years, Julian made himself the man Dad trusted with all of it. If you've ever been the overlooked one in a family that only really listens to the loud, successful voice, do me a quick favor and subscribe to Aunt Justice, because this next part is exactly why I almost said nothing at all. When you're the quiet one, you learn that being right isn't enough. You have to be able to prove it, or you're just the jealous sister making an ugly accusation about the man who saved every holiday. Let me be fair to Julian, the way everyone else was. He was easy to love. Paid for Dad's new roof. He covered Lily's school fees 1 year I was short and never mentioned it again. He remembered your birthday, your coffee order, your dog's name. And somewhere in all that generosity, he became the one who handled Dad's accounts, Dad's investments, Dad's will. Everyone was relieved. Someone responsible was in charge. Diane glowed beside him. For the first time, our family had a king, and she was the queen. I told myself the unease in my stomach was just envy. It started small, about 8 months ago. Dad's feet burned at night. His hands tingled. He said it felt like walking on gravel. The doctors called it neuropathy, old age, maybe diabetes. They adjusted his diet and sent him home, but he kept sliding. He lost weight. His thick silver hair started coming out on the pillow. Some mornings, his legs wouldn't hold him. I noticed things a daughter shouldn't notice as a lab tech. Burning feet, hair loss, stomach pain, confusion. I filed it away and hated myself for the pattern forming in my head. And through all of it, Julian was there, devoted. He visited more than any of us. He brought Dad his favorite dessert every single week, a little ritual. Just the two of them. Dad's 72nd birthday, Julian hosted a dinner at the estate. Crystal, candles, a caterer, 30 guests. Julian at the head of the table, like it was already his. Dad sat wrapped in a blanket, gaunt, smiling for photos he could barely hold his head up for. Everyone said how lucky he was to have Julian. At the end, there was cake. Julian insisted on cutting Dad's piece himself, a special sugar-free slice, he said, for Dad's diabetes. He carried it over personally. Lily was sitting right beside her grandfather. 6 years old, bored, watching everything the way children do when the adults have forgotten they're there. I was across the room, exhausted, counting the minutes until I could take my daughter home. I didn't see it. Lily did. In the car on the way home, Lily was quiet. Then she asked me, very seriously, if she was in trouble for keeping a secret. I told her secrets between grown-ups and kids aren't fair, and she could always tell me anything. So she did. She said, "Uncle Julian puts the sparkly white sugar on Grandpa's cake from the little blue tin in his coat, but only Grandpa's piece. And he told me it's our secret medicine, so Grandpa gets better." I kept my hands steady on the wheel. I kept my voice light. Inside, everything had gone very cold and very quiet. "Does it work, Mommy?" she asked. "Is Grandpa getting better?" And I couldn't answer her because Grandpa was getting worse every single week, right on schedule with the dessert. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in the dark and did the thing I'm trained to do. I stopped feeling and started listing symptoms: peripheral neuropathy, hair loss, nausea, weight loss, confusion. Each one alone means a dozen ordinary things. Together, in that order, they mean something almost nobody sees anymore. They mean a heavy metal. And one heavy metal fits a man being poisoned slowly in something sweet, week after week. Thallium. It's tasteless. It's odorless. It dissolves in anything. For a century, it was the poisoner's favorite, until the tests got good enough to catch it. Tests that run on a machine I stand beside every day. I told myself I was insane, a grieving daughter inventing a monster. Julian loved my father, and I had nothing but a 6-year-old story about sparkly sugar. So I did what quiet people do. I got proof. I visited Dad more. I sat with him. I learned Julian's schedule: Thursday evenings, dessert, always alone with Dad in the study. One Thursday, I came early. Julian's coat was on the chair, and in the inside pocket was a small blue tin, exactly like Lily described. I didn't take it. I photographed it and took a pinch into a clean specimen bag for my kit. I wrapped a corner of Dad's untouched cake in foil. I labeled everything with the date and time, the way I would for any sample that might one day be evidence. And I asked Dad's nurse, casually, to save a urine sample for a test I said his doctor wanted. Because thallium doesn't stay in the blood for long, but it leaves the body for weeks, and it tells the truth. I couldn't use my own hospital system. It would have been my father, my name, my job on the line. So I paid, out of my own pocket, to send everything to an independent forensic lab. Then I waited 9 days. 9 days of smiling at Julian across my father's bed. 9 days of my daughter asking if Grandpa was better yet. The report came on a Tuesday. The blue tin's powder, thallium sulfate, a rodenticide. The cake, positive. My father's urine, over 40 times the safe limit. I sat in my car in the parking lot and shook. It was real. The most beloved man in my family had been feeding my father poison off a silver fork and teaching my daughter to help. If you're still with me, and if some part of you already saw where this was going the way I finally did, like this video and subscribe to Aunt Justice, because what I did next, I had to get exactly right, and I only had one chance. Because here's the thing about a man like Julian. Accuse him wrong or accuse him early, and he doesn't just walk away. He rewrites the story so you're the villain, and everyone believes him because they need to. I took the report to one person first, Priya Chandra, my father's estate attorney for 30 years. If anyone knew why, it was her. Priya went very still. Then she told me what I didn't know. 4 months earlier, Julian had brought Dad to her office to sign an amendment, quietly moving control of the entire estate into a trust with Julian as sole trustee, $40 million, and a clause that took effect the moment Dad was declared medically unfit, or gone. Raymond signed it, she said, but his hands shook so badly Julian had to steady the pen. I flagged it. Julian told me it was the neuropathy. She looked at me. I should have called someone. I'm calling now. We didn't go straight to the family. Priya went to the police with the forensic report, the signed amendment, and Dad's medical records lined up like dominoes. Detective took it seriously in about 4 minutes. Chain of custody, documented poison, a motive worth $40 million. They only needed to move without tipping Julian off. First, we got Dad safe. Priya arranged an urgent admission, and the doctor started chelation, the treatment that pulls the metal out. Away from the dessert, away from Julian, my father began, for the first time in months, to come back. And we set the stage for one last family gathering, a dinner to celebrate Dad's recovery. Julian, of course, insisted on hosting it. We let him. The whole family came. Julian stood at the head of the table, glowing, and raised a toast to Dad's miraculous turnaround, as if he hadn't spent 8 months causing the opposite. And Priya stood up. Calm, unhurried, a folder in her hand. She said she had one small legal matter to clear up before dessert. Julian smiled and told her to go ahead. She laid out the trust amendment. She explained, in plain words, what it did and when it triggered. The table went quiet. Diane laughed nervously and asked what this had to do with anything. That's when I set my own folder on the table. The forensic report, the photo of the blue tin, and I said it out loud, in front of everyone. Julian has been poisoning Dad with thallium. For months, my daughter watched him do it. For 1 second, just one, the easy smile slipped. And in that second, every person at that table saw it too. Then he laughed. He called me unstable, jealous, a failed woman inventing a story to steal from her own sister. He was good, so good that I watched a few faces start to turn back toward him. And then the doorbell rang. Priya had timed it perfectly. 2 detectives stepped into that opulent dining room and asked Julian Ashford to come with them. He didn't shout. Men like Julian don't. He set down his napkin, buttoned his jacket, and told us all not to worry. His lawyers would clear this up by morning. They didn't. The tin still had his fingerprints, the rodenticide traced to a purchase in his name. And thallium leaves a timeline in the body that matched his Thursday visits almost to the day. My sister sat at that table with her whole life collapsing. She kept whispering that it wasn't possible, but she'd seen the same slip we all had. Later, much later, it was Diane who found the receipts and handed them to the police herself. Julian was charged with attempted murder and fraud. The trust amendment was voided. And Dad, thin and shaky but alive, got to sit in his own study again and hold his granddaughter on his lap. My father recovered slowly. The neuropathy faded. His hair grew back gray and thin and beautiful. He cried the first time he could walk to the garden on his own. Diane left Julian before the trial. She and I are careful with each other now, 2 sisters rebuilding on honest ground. The loud, golden family we had was never real. This quieter one is. And Lily, my brave, honest little girl who thought she was keeping a nice secret and instead saved her grandfather's life with 1 sentence in the back of a car. She still doesn't fully understand what she did. One day, when she's older, I'll tell her. You saw the truth when a room full of grown-ups chose not to. Don't ever lose that. Here's what I learned. The most dangerous person in a family isn't the loud one who fights you. It's the beloved one everyone needs to be good, because their goodness is the story the whole family is standing on. We almost let a man murder my father because catching him meant admitting we'd been fooled. Proof is how you survive people like that. Proof, and a child too young to know she wasn't supposed to tell. If someone you love keeps getting sicker in ways no one can explain, pay attention. Trust the quiet feeling. Believe the child who tells you something strange. It might be the truth no one else will say. I'll see you in the next one.